Welcome to another episode of What is Hashimoto's with Dr. Martin Rutherford. To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com. And now, here's Dr. Rutherford.
So Hashimoto's and the microbiome. So that's like the word today, the microbiome. It's kind of cool, you know. And it's, but it's a big deal. They did a test on the microbiome, not test, a research project at Harvard a couple of years ago on the microbiome. I personally know one of the doctors that was involved in that whole test and that whole research project, and it was a mind-blowing project. The microbiome is basically the 3 to 5 pounds of good and bad bacteria that's in your gut. And it's becoming more and more understood that this gut thing is a humongous deal relative to our health. Not just Hashimoto's health, not just autoimmune health, but the mental health, it's obviously digestive health, you name it, endocrine health, you name it. It is a big deal, which is why diets are becoming so popular online and probiotics are being thrown all over the place. And so the microbiome is, and the microbiome is composed of, it should be about 20% bad bacteria and 80% good bacteria. It's something that's important to know. They're called commensurable bacteria because they kind of get together. The bad bacteria kind of keep the good bacteria primed, for lack of a better term. So for those of you who take a probiotic and you bloat, okay, it's because you either have too many bad bacteria or your bad bacteria are starting to figure out how to neutralize your good bacteria, which is not a good thing. Okay, so probiotics can be good, but for those of you who've taken them and said it's not, it's because that balance is off. So the microbiome, obviously, and they're actually starting to call the human microbiome an organ. They're starting to refer it as another organ system in the body. And I could go on for hours about this research thing because it was like the coolest thing ever. It is amazing research project as to how well it was done and how much data it revealed. So Hashimoto, so it affects everything. But how does it affect Hashimoto? It's interesting because there's kind of you would call it, we've come to call it the Hashimoto's gastrointestinal vicious cycle, the brain-gut-brain cycle, the gut-brain vicious web, the web. There's just a number of names for it right now. But the bottom line of all those is the brain can affect the gut can affect the brain, the thyroid can affect the gut can affect the thyroid. And a lot of you have noticed that when you start to work on the gut, a lot of your Hashimoto symptoms start to dampen. Especially gluten. Gluten the reason gluten's a problem is because your gut sees it as an improper entity entering into the system. It's big, it's large, it's sticky, it's got chemicals on them, and the immune system can't handle it. And so it creates antibodies to it, and it damages the inside of your intestines. And the next thing you know, every time you eat gluten, you get bowel symptoms. Some of you don't get bowel symptoms, and you get neurological symptoms. And that's gut, okay? That's part of the gut affecting the thyroid. And so the microbiome being imbalanced, it can cause gas, it can cause bloating, it can cause diarrhea, it can cause the irritable bowel syndrome. It can cause where you get constipation and ultimately you get diarrhea. All of these things are going to cause a problem with your immune system because your immune system, 70% of your immune system, is on the inside lining of your gut. And actually, it's not just your intestines, okay? It's your intestines, it's your lung barrier, and it's your blood-brain barrier. Is where the secretory IgA is the fancy name for it, where the 70% of your immune system, where your immune system, most of it, is located. And so anything that disrupts that is going to flare up an immune response, and then that is going to cause your Hashimoto's to go off. And to varying degrees, you're going to get you're going to get the heart palpitations, the anxiety, the panic attacks. You're going to get the insomnia, or maybe the inward tremors, things of those nature. So you have the gut affecting the microbiome, affecting the gut, affecting the Hashimoto's. On the other hand, Hashimoto's is Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. Okay, the vast majority of Hashimoto's is hypothyroidism. There's a small percentage of you that actually are Hashimoto's hyperthyroidism. You're thin. You have a lot of energy. You're jittery, and either one, okay, either one works, because they both alter gut function. So particularly Hashimoto's is probably the second most common cause, or thyroid. Let's just say thyroid dysfunction is probably the second most common cause of constipation. It's probably the second most common cause of stomach problems. So the number one cause of stomach problems is probably stress. Okay, I don't say probably, it's stress. And stress causes a certain chemistry that causes you to break down certain parts of your stomach. You can't make hydrochloric acid, you can't digest your food, and the next thing you know, you're getting acid indigestion, and the doctors are giving you antacids, which is the dumbest thing in the world to do in something like that, because now you're making less hydrochloric acid. Now you get an ulcer, and it's off to the races. Okay, but thyroid does very similar. Basically, thyroid alters the ability of the stomach. It slows down the ability of the stomach to make hydrochloric acid. There's a number of other chemical reasons that you start to lose the ability to digest your food when you have hypothyroidism, when you have Hashimoto's hypothyroidism. And then it sets off that whole digestive chain. Now your acid and now your stomach's not right. You're not digesting your food right. You're not sterilizing your food properly. For those of you who have candida, if you had proper stomach function with proper hydrochloric acid and proper sterilization, you probably don't get candida. You probably don't get H. pylori. You probably don't get small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So it's a big, big player. So the Hashimoto's causes the gut to be bad, and then that throws off your microbiome. Okay, because now what happens is everything slows down, and things aren't going into the toilet like they should, because you get toxins, right? This is how you detoxify. It goes to the liver, it goes to the gallbladder, it goes to the intestines. It's supposed to go into the toilet. It's not getting in the toilet. Those toxins start getting reabsorbed. The microbiome is thrown off. Let me tell you, when the microbiome is thrown off because of all of this, name a symptom. Name a symptom and you can have it. And I am not joking. Just, you want to talk about vaginal dryness, you want to talk about anxiety, you want to talk about depression, you want to talk about inflammatory responses causing athletic asthma. It's insane. But because when the Hashimoto's causes the microbiome to be off, the microbiome breaks down. Oh, leaky gut. Oh, can that lead to food sensitivities? Oh, every time I eat broccoli, I get. These are the vicious cycles that can take place, and the microbiome is you're going to be using the term microbiome in the future. I don't care who you are, I don't care what you know about science or not. Trust me, you're going to be using the term microbiome, and the new data is pretty cool out there. There's a lot of new data out there as to how to get your microbiome to be the way it needs to be for you, because everybody's microbiome is a little bit different. And by the way, of all the nations in the world, and this was part of that study, the United States has the worst microbiome, just for the record. Okay, so it is a thyroid gut thyroid thing, but more than that, it would take me hours to really go into all the stuff that came out of that study. But the thyroid, in the end, the thyroid screws up the microbiome then screws up everything else. And this was part of the reason why when people would just get off of gluten, I was here since the day of people just got off gluten. We were just like, yeah, get off of gluten. What's that? it's pizza and it's bread and it's pasta. No, that can't be healthy. I'm not getting off of that. Oh yeah, and it's beer too. Oh no, I'm not doing that. I'm like, dude, you got to get off of this. And then they get off of it, and a certain percentage of people would feel miraculously better. We would run around like, yeah, we're smart. We got it. But that was just the tip of the iceberg. And that actually is what kind of, over a period of time, kind of has led to this whole microbiome thing. Now we knew that there were cross sensitivities. We know there are other sensitivities. And all of this is wrapped together. But it's hugely important. In our patients, we're now, as part of our dietary protocols, which are mind-numbingly thorough because it's so important to figure out the diet, figure out the food sensitivities. Now we are now throwing in there certain protocols in the long run to get that microbiome under control. And I think these protocols are going to take the place of people taking probiotics. And in fact, I'm sure of it. I just don't know how long it's going to take for it to get into the full spectrum of functional medicine practitioners or dietitians or whoever's going to be doing it. So it's important. You might want to read up on the microbiome. There's a lot of fun stuff out there on it. There's a lot of things that aren't hard to understand. You don't have to be like a scientist to understand what's going on. If you're reading an article where you have to feel like a scientist to understand, go to something else. There's a lot of simple explanations for it. And so I'll leave you with this. I'll leave you with this little teaser. It's about eating a ton it's about eating a ton of variety of vegetables. That's like part of keeping your microbiome under control. Not fruits, not meats, not anything else. It's about vegetables. So if you want to start, and if you start eating a lot of vegetables and you blow up and go, you idiot, I'm blowing up, it's probably because you got small intestinal bacterial growth. But that's my tip. But that's the microbiome, and the Hashimoto's is worth exploring as far as you're concerned. As far as if you're going to a functional medicine doctor, you might want to throw it at them. They may or may not be familiar with it. It's new stuff, and so that's it. So hopefully that's helpful. You're going to see one day that again this was kind of a early hit on something that's going to be really big in the future as far as what I think doctors in general are ultimately going to be recommending. Okay, so I like that one. So we'll talk to you again pretty soon. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of What is Hashimoto's? To find out more on any of our topics, or for information on scheduling a consultation with Dr. Rutherford, please visit us at whatishashimotos.com.